Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Awaken Happiness Now Global Series. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Happy Canada Day for all of us Canadians who are celebrating today. Um, so, if you are joining us live, welcome, welcome. If you are joining us on the replay on YouTube, welcome, welcome. Please do subscribe so you can take advantage of all the current shows, all the previous shows, all the shows coming up. And I think there's 500, maybe 70 now, but you guys can go check that out. It is my deepest wish, desire, and intention to bring to you these amazing speakers who are sharing their wisdom, their teachings, their experiences, their processes, their mini readings, their healings, transmissions, and activations, etc., so that we can all thrive, so that we can all awaken to happiness now. And so today we have a brand new speaker, guest to our show. So she may not be new to you, but she is new to the platform. So today we have on the show Victoria Hart, and we're going to be talking about awakening the power within, a journey from matrix programming to soul liberation. And so some of what we're going to talk about today is about the programming from society, family, and early life experiences. They can sometimes keep us disconnected from our intuitive gifts. We're going to talk about the big difference between an ego-led life and a soul-led life, what that means, and how we can recognize what a soul-led life is. We're going to talk more about embodying more of our true self and why it is essential. Our childhood can deeply imprint our energy field. The matrix isn't just a system out there, but also internalized within us. We'll talk about that. Intuitive awareness and energetic discernment can support us in reclaiming our power. And Victoria is going to be taking live caller questions, and she'll also be facilitating a guided transmission and activation to help us all remember why we came here. So, for those of you who may not know Victoria, like I said, it's the first time she is on our show. She is a mastery coach, intuitive healer, and new earth guide who has spent a lifetime exploring the metaphysical and mystical realms. Through her own journey of untangling from programmed reality and reclaiming her soul's true path, Victoria embodies a bridge between her ancient wisdom and new earth creation. So, having walked the path of awakening from unconscious conditioning, she intimately understands the courage it takes to dismantle inherited patterns and step into soul sovereignty. So her transformational work weaves shamanic principles, quantum healing, light encoded transmissions, and sacred geometry, the very building blocks of reality to support others in remembering who they truly are. So everyone, please join me in welcoming for the first time Victoria Hart to our show. Victoria, welcome.
Yay! Thank you. I am so excited to be here. First time on your show. Thank you for inviting me. And hello to everyone here today and everyone who will be joining the replay. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Awesome. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And because it is the first time and we have had a chance to speak. And so, I know a little bit about your journey and who you are and what your gifts are and how you work with people, which is great. But if you could just share a little bit about your journey for our listeners and our community who may not know you or your journey very well.
Sure, yeah. Well, it's been a journey, that is for sure. I guess for me, I've always been, and as we all are really, very awake or very aware of my gifts. So clairsentience, claircognizance. I was very in touch with that kind of the subtle realms, the subtle energies. But as a child, over time, that kind of got shut down. And so I guess, it's growing up in and being programmed unconsciously when we're children into and shaped into what maybe the parents see you as and projected from their own beliefs and thoughts about the world and about who you are in relation to them. And so for me, I grew up in a family where, there wasn't a lot of emotional intelligence, if I'm honest. It was lack of communication. And as a child, I often would feel that the words, what was being spoken and what I was sensing, the energy behind the words, weren't really in alignment. There was a disconnect. And yet, of course, I would often be told that I was wrong or maybe I was making stuff up. And so until probably when I got to age 10, that, all of those kind of intuitive gifts had really, really been shut down. And certainly up until 10, the role that I was really conditioned into being was the caretaker. had to kind of, meet other people's needs. So there was a lot of people pleasing going on. I rarely had my needs met aside from, basic needs. And, I didn't really know what my needs were until probably much later in adulthood, to be honest. And so in order to fit in and belong in my family, it was a case of really shrinking and dimming my light in order to survive. So, we're in that survival pattern, surviving the family patterns. And then, of course, as we grow up and we start to interact with society, then I would and as we all are, would be programmed with the societal programming. And really, for me, and I think a lot of women can relate to this, it was around, feeling guilty and having shame of just taking up space. And so, I spent much of my early years kind of being a wallflower, and trying not to be too visible, just to be kind of safe and fit in. And then what happened was, over time, most of the relationships that I would create were based around abandonment or betrayal, because those were the kind of dynamics that I'd been conditioned in the family. So yeah, it's quite big.
Absolutely. And some of what you're sharing is, for a lot of us, I think, when we go back and take a look at our childhood, it was not easy, and we were not supported as we would have liked, right? But I still feel like my parents, for example, did the best that they could with the resources and tools and their mindset and their emotional resilience and all that stuff that they could.
Mm,
So, luckily for me, it wasn't anything intentional. It was just they didn't know any better and they didn't have the tools, uh, etc. But I know some children have had much more difficult childhoods, right? But yeah, the programming starts very early, very, very early. I know for myself too. I was always supposed to be seen and not heard, and sometimes not even seen. Right?
hmm hmm
So I think that's very common for a
Yeah, and
lot
I
of
think
us. And
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna, I was just gonna add that I think what you've just shared is, most of us as children, that's our normal. So we don't necessarily know if it's a rough childhood compared to somebody else's until perhaps later in life, when we start to maybe reflect on the upbringing. And I 100% agree with you, that I believe that parents are just doing the best with what they've got. And of course, we recognize that, it's passed down these generational lines, for, I don't know, centuries, really, isn't it?
Hmm.
And they're just passing on their beliefs and thoughts to their children, who in turn pass it on. So we're kind of living in repeated patterns over and over again, until it gets to one generation that sort of stops and says, hang on, this doesn't feel right, or this isn't me, and we choose to shift it. So,
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I probably messed up my kids as well, because, when they were little, I was not that aware or that awake, so I'm sure I messed them up a little bit. But as they grew up, I got smarter, and I'm totally different, I feel, than my parents. But sometimes stuff still comes out of my mouth that is just like my mom, or I see myself behaving just like my dad. It's like, oh, so there's still some of that there, but my kids are definitely way different and way better than experiences than I had. So, thank goodness. But yes, the programming, once we start to become aware, we can start to change it. And I think that is the biggest piece for all of us. And this is what I tell my clients too, and I think I shared it in one of my stories this week. Is like, it is so important for us to be aware of our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our patterns, and question everything, right? So just
right.
because we think one thing and we've always thought that way, it doesn't mean it's right for us, and doesn't mean that it's relevant for us, or does, like, at all. So, and it doesn't mean it's true for us anymore. We may have believed it at some point, but we have all, grown, evolved, changed, etc. So, those can also change. um
Mm.
I can talk about this for a long time too,
Oh,
but
that's a big topic.
But
Yeah.
we know when you're talking about programming from society, family, and early life experiences keep us disconnected from our intuitive gifts. I don't even think I knew I had any intuitive gifts when I was growing up, right? So I do remember a few things when I was like 16, 15, 16. I was hearing things, seeing things, but I didn't tell anybody because, I mean, I didn't want, well, I did actually, and people thought I was crazy. So I did tell my parents, and they said, no, it's nothing. It's just your imagination, blah, blah, blah. Right. But,
Exactly.
um, but then, and then from then on, and then I think I probably shut it down until I started working with angels and guides and all that kind of stuff. Then they all came back online big time. Right. But
Yeah,
we are,
yeah.
we
I
are
think
conditioned to not listen to that kind of stuff.
no, and I think actually you said you weren't aware of them, nor was I, but I think as a child, that actually just comes naturally. That's our
Mm.
natural way of navigating through life. It's only, as we're then conditioned into adulthood, that starts to just shut down. And like you said so beautifully, that, oh, it's your imagination and stop that. So, right, exactly, right on.
And so even that, if we can go back and as adults go back and remember some of those times, that can help us to then, because I know so many people in the community, they're like, I was more intuitive. I wish my clairs would come on more. Well, if you go back and remember those times and acknowledge them, then you have a greater chance of then reconnecting to those gifts much more easily. I think, anyways, I think it is all about acknowledgement and trust for that piece. Um, but yeah, I think you're right. We all have intuitive gifts. I do. I'm not even going to call them gifts because that makes it sound like something special. But we
Hmm.
all are intuitive. Period.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
I like
We're
that.
all intuitive. So, and it's just recognizing that we are.
Yeah, and I think, we can all relate to the stories where we got that hit that, oh, maybe I shouldn't do such and such, or I'll don't go there. And then we override it and we dismiss it, we tell ourselves, oh, don't be silly. We're just imagining it. There's that imagination again. And we do what we intuitively, the first hit we got was not to do it. And then what happens is we generally learn a lesson, don't we, down the line? And then we keep
Yeah.
learning those lessons until we pick up and realize, oh, that's my intuition talking to me and guiding me. And then we have to start listening and following it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I just want to, for those of you here who are here live with us, if you want to type in the chat, if you can remember that that you were intuitive. I'm going to even stop using the word gifts. That you were intuitive when you were younger, but you just didn't pay attention to it, or just like, did you have those types of experiences where it's like it was, you heard things or saw things or felt things, etc. If you want to just type that in the chat, and that's a way of again recognizing and reconnecting to those abilities. We'll
Mm.
say. Um, so yeah, so let us know. So I also wanted to talk about, when it comes to what we were talking about earlier, when I was saying it's so important to be aware of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and patterns, but we can only really do that when we are present, right?
Hmm.
Present in the body, present in the moment. So that means not being in our head and focusing just on our mind. So when you talk about a soul-led life versus, or the difference between a soul-led life and an ego-led life, I think for me it is about that. It's about being present, following your heart, but not the emotional part of it, but the knowing part of your heart, right? Instead of just following the mind.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and add that because of the conditioning from, childhood and society of who we should be and what we should be doing with our lives, that we internalize those projections and create this, self-constructed image of who we are. And I like to call it, rather than ego as such, I call it the protective personality. And it's really those little layers that we put around ourselves based on the experiences we've had, some good, some not so good, and then we've kind of learned how to behave to avoid, having those experiences again, particularly if they weren't very nice. And when we're in that protective personality, we tend to, chase after things. We chase our worth and value in the world. We might, try and prove our worth, and that could be, status, money, all of those material things that tell us, well, I must be doing okay, right? Um, People pleasing, I mean, for me it was a big one. It was, rather than trusting my own inner guidance, I would often be seeking validation outside of myself. So even if I got those intuitive hits, I would have to, ask someone else, well, what did they think? And there was a certain period of my life where I would ask lots of different people, and then I would, be bombarded with a barrage of different opinions, and that only created more confusion and more self-doubt. So what I've done is, when I started to recognize that, oh, hang on, this is not really me. This is the version of myself that I've been told to be, or I've thought I was. And as we start to peel away all of those layers and allow our true soulful self to start to come through, then actually what we find is that we might still have the same kind of personality, but our choices and our decisions and the way we show up in the world are very, very different. And therefore, the reality that we once had when we were in that chasing mode completely shifts, and we have a brand new reality. Um, for me, it's much calmer. It's guided. I don't chase. I wait to get the intuition before I move forward. Um, I feel more alive, I feel more joyful, which is really key for me, because through much of my younger years, my default emotion was sadness. I was sad at constantly feeling disappointed, overlooked, not valued, all of those things that I was seeking outside of myself, that eventually, when I turned the mirror on me and started finding that within myself, I became my own validation. Um,
Beautiful. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And for me too, the ego-led life is more based on fear,
Right.
right? And uh, sometimes I don't like the word fear, but it is more fear, scarcity, lack, right? And then the soul-led life is more following that the heart and the guidance, the
Yeah.
inner knowing, right? And trust. Trust is a big piece of it as well, right? And knowing that you're always going to be taken care of, knowing it's all going
Mm.
to work out, right? Because when you're from the ego led part, you don't, there is no trust. You're just like pushing and forcing, right? But there's no trust. So with the soul led life, is more about that the guidance and the trust, and moving forward in that way. I love all these comments in the chat. I don't know if you can see, because when I asked the question about, were you intuitive when you were younger, kind of thing. It's like I love that, because it's just, you're acknowledging that you were, and that you still are. Because for me, it's about any of those abilities we always have, but sometimes it's not. I don't think we shut them down per se. We just focus on other things. They're always there, because they're in our field, right? They are part of who we are. And so when we say, I'm not very clairaudient, or I'm not clairvoyant, you are, but you're focusing on the other aspect of I'm not. So
Mm.
it's it's really interesting to look at.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you brought in trust, because I think a lot of people, and some clients will often talk about, well, how do I trust? And it's about another person. And of course, really it's building trust within ourselves, trusting that intuition that we've just been talking about, and then following the guidance. And actually that builds our own safety, because the more we trust and follow what we're being guided to be and do, then we're anchoring our own safety in our own bodies. We're not seeking someone else to make us feel safe, or something else to make us feel safe. So I think that's really key, one of the key things. Um, and I'll add that I think fear is really um, the symptom of a programmed belief, a much deeper root, often, again from childhood. And I'm reminded of my dad, actually, he used to be afraid of flying. And why? Because his mum was afraid of flying. And then he got a job where it required him to fly and travel a bit more. And over time, he grew to love it. So it's so interesting how before he'd even, taken that step, he'd already decided, oh no, I've got this fear.
Wow, yeah. And when I look at it, at fear, for me anyways, I don't really, there's no fear. I mean, I'm not going to die, but there's uncomfortableness, uncertainty, unease, but not true fear.
Mm,
Um, and so I think that that word has been used so much in this industry that it's made it so big. But really, most of us do not have fear. We're uncomfortable. Yes, we're out of our comfort zone. Yes, out of our element. Yes, but not fear. We're not fearing for our life like we used to in the caveman days, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Wasn't there that saying that the only thing to fear is the fear itself?
Fear itself.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of fear, so when someone, and I used to be like this, not fear again, but doubt, confusion. When someone is in that energy, what practical steps can we begin to take to shift into clarity, empowerment, discernment, and energetic sovereignty? Because for myself, in the past, I used to be very, very much in that energy, and so I know for myself it is part of the like thought forms and entities and all that stuff, which I know now, but at that time I did not know. I was a
Mm.
kid, I didn't know, right? But I do know that now. So what can we do about that?
Well, and I think you touched on it earlier, but I'll also share that for me, much of my earlier days was kind of like in that, like that rabbit in headlights, kind of waiting for something to go wrong or, that disappointment again. Um, and really, as you shared, was all of those things when we're in self-doubt or fear or lack or whatever, we're not in the present moment. So we're in either in the past, with past memories are being brought to the surface, or we're worrying about something that hasn't happened yet, in the future. So certainly for me, it was learning how to regulate that nervous system, because that was just keeping me on high alert. And I didn't realize that my whole body was in this kind of fright and freeze state for a very, very long time, which I didn't recognize because that was normal. I was used to feeling like that. And as soon as I started to find my own inner safety and regulate my nervous system through presence, through being present and really being aware and checking in, well, noticing where these thoughts and feelings are coming from and questioning them so that then we can decide or rewrite them if they're not true and recognize, like, sometimes I say, oh, where did that pop in from? And it's with compassion. It's like just being curious and like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And actually that's the key, because as soon as you catch it, then it kind of already loses its grip. And so being able to be really present and aware is one of the key techniques, really. And for me, over time, I just started to notice that, oh, hang on, I'm not holding all this tight tension in my body anymore. I think, we again conditioned to believe that if we've got something wrong with the body, then we need to fix the physical first. But actually, from my own journey and my own healing, what I discovered was the body naturally heals when you fix the emotional charge that's being held in the cells. And just like water, um, sorry, just like muscle memory, the body holds memory. So the cells are made of water. So within the body, that water is constantly repeating the same trauma, should we say, until we reprogram it. And we can do that. And sometimes I do it just simply by stating my affirmations into a glass of water and drinking it. That's such a powerful way of starting to create these shifts, and also gets you present again. So you're starting to pay attention and be aware. Um, Another thing is, and one of the things I work with clients is really guiding them to the root. What's the unconscious belief that's that's cycling and keeping me stuck in this energy, because when it's held in the body, that's constantly going to be our reality until we shift it. When it's not in the body anymore, our reality actually changes, and it's, you know, it's fascinating. It fascinates me. And so energy follows awareness. And so by being aware, we start to shift the energy, and then so the emotional charge held in the body starts to shift. And therefore, what I discovered was, oh, I haven't got these aches, pains, or whatever else was going on in the body for a long time. That naturally started to heal as a result. And, you know, I just find that so incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. And these are things that we can all do. I mean, I talk about being present all the time, but it's like it is key, right? So many of us stay in our heads, in our emotions, in our stories, and we're not present in the body and in the moment. And the more
Mm,
that and just breathing, like you don't have to do anything, just breathe and just recognize that you're present. That alone starts to take away the charge of whatever you were feeling just a few minutes ago, right?
yeah.
Or the story a few minutes ago. So yeah, it's very important.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank
sacred
you.
channel breathing is one powerful for me, and that is literally just when you're breathing, just imagining that you're breathing up from the earth, up from Mother Earth. You're breathing that breath up through the body, and then I swap it over either at my belly or my heart space, and then exhale out of the top of my head. And so what we're doing with this flow up and down the body, we're giving life to your spinal column, your central channel, your life force energy. And so that in itself is, you know, a simple but really, really powerful and effective tool. Another thing I learned, you know, again, if you are holding so much trauma in the body, my body became very stiff. And, you know, the more I just sat still and didn't move, the stiffer it became. So I learned, you know, just getting some movement in the body, and that could be yoga or Tai Chi. For me, I found a lady who's not far from me who does something called flow motion. And it's allowing us to just flow with whatever the body wants to do, you know, in a room with other people, but, you know, nobody's watching you, and you're just allowed and invited to just allow yourself to feel the body. And again, that was so key for me because I wasn't present with my body. I wasn't living fully in the body. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, same. For so long, I disregarded the body completely. I was always in my head, or in my emotions, in my stories, never in the body. So because I was part of me at that time didn't want to be here,
Right.
right? Part of me was angry, resentful, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And
Same.
like I can't even remember now because like I've dealt with it, right? So I've healed all that part. So I don't even know exactly now what it was, but that's I didn't feel comfortable. I had had physical trauma, and so I didn't feel safe either in the body, right? So there's so many pieces to that, but being present in the body is going to help, and that breathing is going to help to um, access that cellular memory and allow it to come up. So part of being present means being willing to allow whatever it is to come up,
Mm.
right? So you can recognize it, you can be aware of it, and you can let it go. So really important. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and that's so important because we often try and bypass it, or we don't want to feel it, so we stuff it back down, and all that does is it just stuffs it back in the cells of our body, and then we carry on with these aches and pains, and as you said, continue, you know, reweaving the same old story over and over. So yeah,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting that when you start to heal the old stories, the old traumas, you won't even remember what they are. So
Oh,
you'll be like you like vague memories, but like like the charge is gone. So like basically the story has changed, So it's like, oh yeah, it was nothing. Whereas,
that's so
you
true.
know, for at the time it was like huge kind of thing, but now it's like, oh yeah, okay, right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it does change. It does change. There is
So
hope.
it's like
So
reflecting on a different person, really, isn't it? Because it's a
yeah,
different version of you that, you know, sometimes I look back and I think, wow, was that really me? And like you say, I don't even recognize that person as who I am today. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So and that shows you how much you've changed, right? So
Mm.
I love that. And so for me, part of living a soul-led life is also about, again, being embodied here and now, right? So we cannot live our mission, purpose, etc., if we're not here in our physical body, right? So the embodiment, of course, is very, very important to living our mission and purpose. It's essential, but it's not just being embodied at the personality level, right? We want to embody the soul more and more, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And I think, embodiment is more than just a concept. It's really having that lived experience. And that's what then, and as you shared earlier, and I shared it as well, I didn't want to be here. And it was because I was living much of my life kind of like floating in the higher dimensions, maybe being connected to my guides. And, you know, even my soul had that kind of connection quite strongly, but it wasn't in the body. And that, again, as you shared earlier, I didn't feel safe. And until we really anchor our soul in the body, those our mission of why we came to earth, why we're here and what we're here to be and do, just stay dormant. And some people can go through their entire life never accessing that. And so what we want to be doing is really bringing our soul into the body so that we activate our soul gifts or our soul mission, and we start to live on purpose. And I love to think of it like, we all have our unique puzzle piece to play in this grand, massive jigsaw puzzle. And so we're here to all play our key part. And I think, it's about this presence, being present so that we can become more into our body and clearing all of those um, beliefs and traumas from the body which aren't us, which don't serve us, so that more and more of our true self and our soul can come through. Um, and then when we're in that space, we're I very rarely am living in the past or the future now. And time for me sometimes feels like it stands still because I can be so present and calm and just acting in the moment without worrying about what I have to do next, just following the guidance step by step. And it's like, the next piece of the path, unfolds as well. And yeah, so sorry, I don't know if I've got a little bit lost in the question.
Forgot the question too, but one thing that I want to share is that, and this is a belief, so this is what I feel and believe, but our soul has a mission for why it wants to be embodied now in this lifetime. We don't always recognize what that is, but the soul has a mission. And so not everybody's soul mission is going to be to do a show like this, right? So not everybody's soul mission is to work with lots of people or anything like that. So I think a lot of times people tend to compare and think that, oh, well, I should be doing that too, right? So that's not necessarily how it works, right? Each soul is different, and each soul is unique, and each soul is choosing something that it wants to understand or experience or evolve and grow through. Um, and that's why we all, like, there's 8 billion of us now, I think. We're all having different experiences, right?
Right. And we're all part of the one source essence. And as you shared, we've all been given our unique personalities and our unique puzzle pieces to play. And okay, not everyone needs to be in the public eye or doing their own show, as you shared. But we all have equal amount, I believe, of importance and relevance of why we're here and why we really matter. And some of us, just working quietly behind the scenes, but making a huge, huge difference to people around them and in their lives. I think, one of the things, what was it? I think that they say is, think about when you finally pass, how many people's lives have you touched? And I think that's so valuable to really have that, even if you don't really know your true soul mission yet, maybe it's not quite awakened in you. If you can just go with that alone and think, well, how many people's lives have I touched? I think that in itself is a powerful way of opening up to what you're here to be and do, and just bringing that
Mhm.
joy and kindness to other people.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about that joy and kindness and giving people hope and support in some way. And it's for me, it's about helping people recognize who they are at a soul level, that they are light, that they're a soul, that they're not just the experience that they've had or them or what they think or what they feel, etc. They're much more than that, much greater than that, and have the capacity to um, be the light, be the love, and be a shining example and bright light for others. Um, and we all have that, all the time for ourselves, our families, our communities, our children. We all have that potential, and so sometimes it is about recognizing that we are light and just being ourselves. Period. Right. Being the positive aspects of ourselves.
Yeah, and
Um,
the only comparison, you mentioned comparison earlier, and that was a big one for me. I would be comparing where I was on my path, and I think often we put it down to a certain age. Well, I'm this age, so I should be, doing this or having this by now. And I remember when I learned myself that actually it's nothing to do with that at all. It's all divine timing, and your only comparison is with yourself and the previous version of yourself that you were, and just keep refining and fine tuning who you are, and feeling good about how you're showing up each day. And I remember
yeah.
soon after I discovered that for myself, I found myself sharing that with somebody else, and I was like, oh, okay, it just came out. And then I could see how that was a gift to them as well, because they also stopped and paused for a moment and considered what I'd shared. So
Absolutely. Yep. I love that. And we are all shining lights, right? So be that beacon of light, be that beacon of hope for others as they are starting to awaken on their path, on their journeys uh, to their purpose and mission as well.
yeah.
Um, Now I wanted to talk about something that you mentioned or that you shared with me, and it's about the matrix, right?
Mm.
So you talked how the matrix is not just out there, but it's internalized within us. So what do you mean by that, and how can we begin to break free from some of those unconscious loops and stories and patterns?
This is a great question, and this was my greatest aha. And I feel that it's also the greatest aha that it will empower others to really shift from that unconscious survival patterning to really living new earth and being the conscious creator of your reality. And so, certainly for me, um, I'll use my family dynamics to begin with as an example. So I looped for a long time, just feeling unseen, overlooked, not really valued. And I would talk and talk and talk and complain and about it, and want them to change, want them to see me differently. And I had to recognize that they were just really seeing me through their own lens and their own maybe traumas, unhealed traumas, unconscious programming and patterns that were kind of being projected onto me. And so when I recognized that, oh, it's not about, trying to create change with someone else, I had to create the change. I had to be the change. And so when I started to clean up these patterns within me, that's when my reality changed. And so when I call the matrix, I'm really referring to all these the programmed reality based on our programming through childhood, society, culture, education, all of the systems that are really conditioning or programming us to be this version of ourselves. And so that's the reality that we end up living in. And so as soon as we shift it and turn it inwards and start cleaning up on the inside, we create a different matrix reality. So we're living either from survival matrix patterning, or we're moving up to the higher Christ consciousness, new earth, higher conscious matrix, shall we say. And that was massive for me. even things like, let me think. Uh, so I started to see how, so unconscious programming in my family, such as kind of like narcissistic tendencies. There was also kind of like subtle grooming, should we say, which we kind of see in the outside world as people being groomed in cults, should we say, or whatever. And I started to see these subtle patterns in my own dynamic, my own environment. And it didn't seem it seemed quite harmless, is what I'm trying to say. But when I really got down to it and sort of saw how it was a continued pattern to manipulate people to be or do what someone else wants you to do, then that was, that's what I was seeing in the reality as well. And often that would be what would come and, meet me, because I was holding that energy. And so as soon as I'd shifted my energy and started to raise my frequency, I wasn't attracting things like that anymore, because my frequency was higher, and I could only then attract other things of a higher frequency. Didn't mean to say they weren't still in existence, in a lower realm, should we call it. But when I had cleaned and polished up my own internal programs and patterns, there was just no resonance anymore. So is that making sense, Shefali? Do you understand what I mean? So things that maybe you keep getting the same old disempowering pattern, maybe it's in the workplace, maybe it's with family, maybe it's with friends. But then as soon as you shift it in yourself, you don't have those dynamics anymore. They just simply fall away. And it's just like mind blowing.
I love that. And I'm glad you shared the difference, and for us to start to recognize when we are operating in the lower matrix vibration frequencies and when we are operating in the higher I don't like lower and higher, but you know what I mean, vibrational frequencies, so that once we can recognize it, then we have awareness, right? And so from that awareness, we have more wisdom, and that can change it. We can recognize, oh, this is when I go into the 3D, and this
Hmm.
is when I go into the 5D, for example.
Hmm.
So and then you get to choose which one you like better, right? So
Right.
there's no judgment at all, but it's just what you prefer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, if we, I noticed if I was having, because I used to have a lot of negative thoughts and I didn't know how to shift them. And I learned as well that actually focusing on trying to shift negative thoughts is just it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, really. It just didn't work. What I had to do is focus more on the emotions that I was putting out. So as I said,
Mm.
shifting from that constant feeling sad to, well, let's find the joy in my life, and then
Mhm.
shifting my behaviors. And I noticed that when I stopped tolerating poor treatment or tolerating things that didn't bring me joy, just changing those behaviors just naturally changed my thought patterns, because I wasn't experiencing those lower frequencies as we just shared. So therefore, I wasn't having those negative thoughts so frequently. And then over time, they really started to become less and less and less. And yeah, it's so, so powerful.
Yeah. And you will only recognize that they're becoming less and less and less if you're being present.
Yes.
So it always really truly does come back to being present and being in our awareness.
Yeah.
So we did mention, I did not mention it, but if you have a question for Victoria, you can raise your hand. I think people may have written some questions in the chat. I'm not sure, but if you want to raise your hand, you can work one-on-one with Victoria. She's going to take some questions. We are going to be doing a process and activation and transmission in a little while, in a little bit. But in the meantime, this has been such a fascinating conversation and so much to unpack that
Mhm.
I'm just going to check and see if there were any questions in the chat. I think there was some stuff, but I missed it because it's like we were so, engrossed in our conversation that. Um, but I love how people are saying that they are starting to recognize their synchronicities more in their lives, starting to recognize their intuitive abilities and gifts as well.
Mhm.
Um, just gonna see if there was anything else that I saw that yeah, and then and the negative self-talk is so it's so damaging, I have to say. So we really do need to guard that and pay attention to that. No, I don't see any questions per se. Maybe I was mistaken. So I don't see any questions per se, but lots of comments and feedback about how they are recognizing their intuitive abilities, which is great.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and
It,
yes,
it's self-observation and noticing those patterns, noticing, if you keep getting the same thing, what are you doing repeatedly that gives you the same result? Because you need to do it, you need to change that and do something different. And I noticed that just making those subtle shifts, and at first it can feel quite scary, especially for me, if I was conditioned to constantly people please, I was hyper independent. I didn't know how to really receive any help from anyone. And, it was constantly being in that, what they call a hustle, where you feel like you've got to constantly be in the game of what everyone else is doing. And as I started to gently pull my energy back from all of that and just make little tweaks here and there, manageable tweaks, and then over time that completely shifted things around. And that again, it was choosing my sovereignty over self-abandoning. And we do that a lot. We sacrifice our needs for somebody else's, or we abandon ourselves to support or serve other people. And really I had to recognize, is this serving me? Because I'm always happy to support other people, but you have to recognize what's the motive behind that. And yeah,
yeah,
so
absolutely. And I think what that piece you just mentioned right now, Victoria, is so important. What is the motive behind anything that you're doing
yeah.
is key, right? And that is going to give you, I think, more information about where you're functioning from, how you're operating, what you're operating from.
Yeah.
So
And a
I
lot of
do
the
some
time,
I ask myself that sometimes, and but not enough.
yeah. But a lot of the time for me, it's because I wanted to be liked, right? Who doesn't want to be
Mm-hmm.
liked? And then I had
Yeah,
to recognize, well, actually, can I be okay with not everyone liking me? And that's a big one to face. But, that actually frees you up to be around the people that really do matter, rather than constantly giving away all of your energy. You feel depleted just from trying to be liked by everyone and never really
yeah.
serving your soul. So, yeah.
So it's either wanting to be liked or wanting to not be judged and
Mm,
rejected, right?
right.
Two
Yeah.
sides of the same coin,
Yeah,
really, right?
exactly.
And so I know for myself, I've been doing a lot more stories lately, right? But I was resisting it. It's like, "Ugh, I don't want to do stories, it's like I have to like be seen public. I mean, this for me is not public. This is not public, for me. I don't consider, but doing a story on Facebook or on Instagram, that's like public. And I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. It's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to share about? Ugh. And then it's like judging my, like how my face looks, how my hair looks, the stupid bump on my forehead, all that stuff. Looking at that, and it's like, oh, I can't do it. So then it's like, I pushed myself. It's like, you know what? Who cares? I was going to say the F word, but it's like, who cares? I'm just going to do it, play with it, see what happens. And now it's like piece of cake. It's like no charge whatsoever. Now I can do a 1 minute story, like no problem, you know. But it was
Yeah.
that original resistance to being judged or being rejected, and people not liking what I was sharing,
Mm.
that can stop. I felt was stopping me, right? And I was like, "Ugh, who cares? If people see the story and if they don't like it, well, they can just keep on going, right?" So it's
I love
we
that.
get in
Well
our
done.
own way,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well,
So
it's us. It's us that is the biggest block to our own power and light. Yeah.
yeah, but after I did a couple, now I feel like so free about it, you know. It's like nothing. It's like, oh my goodness. So oh, so honestly, guys, it's like we think about stuff way too much, people don't care what we do, people don't see what we do, honestly, that many, so it doesn't really matter. Do what brings you joy, do what makes you happy, do what lights you up, just do you, right? And I think that's what it's all about. right? So, the awakening for all of us is about us just being us, accepting ourselves as we are. This is what our soul chose to. So, my soul chose this body,
Hmm.
right? Some of these personalities, these parents, these siblings, these everything. So, the soul chose that to experience something, whatever, all these different things, right? So, it knew better than my personality self of what it needs.
Right. Absolutely.
So I don't know if that makes any sense or helps anybody in any way, but that is for me too is about awakening that power within, awakening that light within you. Is just being willing to accept yourself and do what you want without worrying about what people will think or say or feel. Or I mean, obviously, I never say anything to hurt anybody, but you know what I mean, right?
And I
So no
love what you
fear.
said. I love
Go
that
ahead.
because I think one of the, hang on, I just lost my train of thought. um, oh, what was it?
I'll come back. It's
It'll come
again,
back.
like it's about being yourself, right? Accepting yourself and allowing your soul to express through you, through this
Oh,
body,
it's
through this
come
personality. Go
back.
ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. That helped. You said about yeah, the families we're born into and the experiences we have and everything, and I think that's so key, especially when we're healing from stuff that didn't feel good and maybe we've looped in disempowering situations for a long, long time, so it's really kind of embedded. But I think if we can reframe it like you shared and said, well, all of these experiences have come to me for a reason. Well, what is that reason? Well, really it's to awaken the power within. Absolutely. And
Yep.
sometimes, yeah, it's not so easy. It's not enjoyable. But when we recognize it, then we can move towards the joy and out of the pain and suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only reason why we have these experiences. And I've had doozies, like I've had, lots of not great experiences, challenging experiences, but they always brought me back to me, right? They always brought me back to who are you?
Yeah.
Always, each time. So now it's like, okay, maybe I don't have to have a horrendous experience to come back to me. I will just stay with me. That's my goal now. No more horrendous experiences, only good stuff from now on. But that so that kind of gives you a uh it's not a permission slip per se, but uh it gives you different perspective and point of view on maybe some of your experiences. Did they bring you back to you? I think that's the potential
Mm.
for what's possible. Okay, we're getting heavy now. Um, that was a bit more heavy. So we are going to be, or Victoria is going to be sharing um, an activation and transmission to help us remember why we are here. Again, it is like, why are we here? We are here to remember who we are, right?
Right.
To remember our soul essence, our soul self. So we're going to do that in just a minute. But before that, I just want to, Victoria, talk a little bit about the package that you're offering
Mm.
for us. So I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. Please let me work. Let's hope I'm on the right page. I'm going to share. Oh yeah, and you were going to share something.
Oh, I'll do that with the transmission. Yeah, I've got a
Oh
little.
yeah. Okay. So let me just share my screen in the meantime. I just remembered. It's like, oh my goodness. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen. So Victoria has a package called From Matrix to Mastery. It's a live 3-part masterclass series, which is coming up. Hold on. Let me move this thing. So you want to talk a little bit about it, Victoria? It's
Yeah,
going too
sure.
fast.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's a 3-part masterclass series from Matrix to Mastery. And as we've shared, hopefully now you understand what I mean by moving out of the Matrix and into your self-mastery. We're starting on July 16th for 3 weeks, and it's a really a journey to reclaim your power and your energy mastery. So we're going to explore how to unhook from the old story and really step into your radiance and your intuitive power. It's an invitation into a frequency shift. As I was sharing earlier, when I stopped holding that in my body and I wasn't resonating at that frequency anymore, my reality then shifted. So I'm inviting you into a frequency shift where you go from reacting to life's challenges to creating new possibilities, new opportunities for yourself. Really to reconnect to your intuition and that subtle knowing, which, as we shared earlier, may be long. Oh, hang on, it's going crazy.
It's like it has a mind of its own. And I'm like, can't control
I'm not
it.
doing this.
I'm like, what
Okay.
is happening? I can't control it. It's like it's so weird. But so that's why I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm like, I can't do this. Um, so yeah, so really quickly, it's a three-part masterclass series with a lighting code, a guided transmission activation MP3. For 147, there is a payment plan available. And of course, if you're an inner circle member, please use your gift code. But I'm gonna try and stop it. I don't know what's happening. So there's three classes, right? So do you
Yeah.
want to just briefly share a little bit about the classes? I mean, they don't
Yeah.
need to see the screen.
Oh, it's slow. It seems to be slowing down a bit. So yeah, so the first one is really awakening to your intuitive knowing and being able to use that as your navigation system, your internal compass. And as we shared at the beginning of the call, we've often already had this awakened when we were young, but it just got shut down and dismissed or suppressed. So we're going to reawaken that. That's the key to our power. Then the second masterclass is really going from that programmed self to our real self, our soulful self, enabling us to decode the energies around us and understand why you're feeling what you're feeling and why. And then in the third masterclass, we'll shift from outer seeking to inner mastery. And this is where you really learn to trust your inner guidance and open that path to a life reclaimed through joy, through sovereignty, and through soul led creation. And you will start to notice that your creative power, your creativity starts to unlock because you are both the creator and the creation. So you are creating your life with the choices that you make, and you're living within that creation based on the choices that you make. So I'm really excited, and if you do feel the call to go deeper, then please come and join me. It will be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry. That's never happened before. So I was like, I don't know what's happening. It's like, why is it not staying on the screen? It's like, oh my goodness. I'm gonna put the link in the chat as well for everyone. But yeah, that page is going nuts. So we have July 16th is the first call, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so
yeah,
July 16th. So there's like 2 weeks, plus you also receive a bonus MP3, which I talked about really quickly, so that you have something to work with right away. Okay.
yeah. And the
Awesome.
MP3 allows you to start to attune to the voice of your real self. So you start to tap into, well, what does that feel like and sound like to me? How do I trust that voice? Which voice am I listening to? The protected personality one or my true inner soul guidance?
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, because I think somebody had mentioned that in the chat earlier about which voice is it, yeah, knowing which one to listen to.
Mm.
So awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to do a short, quick little, just going to change this, um, transmission and activation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're good.
Okay, I'd love to do that. So can I share my screen? I'd love to just pop up an image while I
Yep.
do.
Yep. You should be able to.
All right. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Can you
Yep.
see that? Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, so this is really to, and you can obviously listen with your eyes closed or you can look at the image. But what I'm really inviting you into is to remembering why you came and to live as this conscious creator in the new earth realm. So I'm just going to turn my camera off if that's all right while I do this, and we'll get started. Um, oh, oh, sorry, hit the wrong thing. There we go. Take a deep breath in through your nose and a long, steady exhale out of the mouth. Let yourself arrive here. Let your body settle. Let your energy soften. Feel your feet on the earth. Feel the earth rise to meet you. You are safe. You are welcome. Bring your awareness now to your heart. Feel the subtle pulse, the quiet rhythm of life moving within you. Now imagine a golden thread reaching from your heart deep into the earth. And another golden thread rising from your crown into the stars. You are the bridge. You are the meeting point of heaven and earth. And now feel these words as an energetic transmission, not just spoken by me, but carried through me. I stand as a gatekeeper, one who walks between realms, one who holds portals open so others may remember. In this space, I offer no answers, only a reflection of your truth, a doorway for your remembrance. You came here with purpose. You came encoded with light. You carry a mission that only you can fulfill. It may not be what you thought it was. It may not fit into what you've been told it should be. But it is yours, and it is time. With every breath, begin to call back your energy from every person, place, timeline, and belief where you have abandoned yourself in order to belong. You do not need to shrink to be safe. You do not need to forget to survive. Let your light return to you now. Let your true essence fill your field. Let your soul speak again. I remember who I am. I open to the mission encoded in my being. I give it permission to reveal itself now. Feel a soft radiance expanding in your chest, a soul-level knowing awakening. It may arrive as a feeling, a symbol, a word, a deep breath of truth. Whatever arises, trust it. This is the frequency of remembrance. There is nothing to force, only an allowing. The path will rise to meet you as you walk in truth. Breathe deeply once more. Feel yourself anchoring into your body, rooted to earth, connected to source. You are not here by accident. You are not alone. You are loved beyond measure. This activation is now complete, and your mission is already unfolding.
Oh, thank you, thank you. That was it took me so deep, and at the same time, it's yeah, the frequency of remembrance is to bring you back to you. So thank you. How's everyone doing? If you want to type in the chat how that was for you, definitely breathe, drink water, right? Like always, but just feel into this frequency, this presence, this remembrance of who you truly are. And as oh,
It really took you deep.
yeah, yeah, and I can't even remember. You mentioned something about the mission has already started to unfold.
Yeah,
Um, so be aware of that as well for yourself. It's like what new thoughts come to you, what new feelings come to you, just what new synchronicities come to you, right? Christine says that was intense. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, for me, you know, I'm still feeling it. So
yeah.
that was quite powerful.
I do activate codes, so
Yeah.
it's working.
Wonderful embrace. Thank you. Good. Beautiful. Awesome. But you want to anchor in these frequencies, integrate these frequencies as well, right? So that's why I'm saying drink water. If you can go outside just for a few minutes, it's always good. Walk around. It's
Bare
always
feet,
good, right?
yeah, bare feet grounding, be good.
Yeah, if you can, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you. Oof.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm still feeling it. Still feeling it. So enjoy it, be in it, be in that presence. I was given the word joy. Oh, beautiful, Vivian. That's great. I love that.
That's what I
Joy.
bring. That's what I bring. There'll be more of those in the masterclass as
Yeah,
well.
awesome. Good. Awesome. That'll be so powerful and so transformational if to go through that process. So it's basically three calls, 3 90-minute calls that are going to take you deep into yourself to help you remember who you are and why you came, why you're here, right? And help you to just embody more of that of your soul essence, right?
Exactly
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, awesome. Good. Thank you. So please do so see, I can't even think. So we always I normally say any last words of wisdom, Victoria, that you want to share with us.
I'm just liking people's comments. Yes, of course, I have some words of wisdom. Firstly, and this was a big thing for me, and so if you're feeling that maybe there's something wrong with you or that you're broken, then I want to remind you that you're not. And really it is this programming, this matrix programming that we've talked about today, and that your true freedom really begins when we start to become more self-aware. It starts within. So awareness is key. And then secondly, we talked about embodiment. So, your body really holds the wisdom. And when we anchor more of our soul into our physical vehicle, we activate our mission and we really reclaim our energy and our power and our light. And then when we align with our soul's truth, we naturally start to become the conscious creator of our reality. So there we
Yes,
have it.
absolutely. I love that. Yep, absolutely. Thank you for that. So I will have the recordings out in a little while, but definitely go back and watch and listen because the activation and transmission was powerful, but also all the wisdom that was shared was so powerful and can really start to give you a different way of looking at your life, the programming, your childhood, like all of that, right? So stay tuned for that. Um, Good, awesome. So there's no more live shows this week. Tomorrow we are having new kitchen countertops installed, so there'll be no calls, no nothing happening. Um, yeah, this is amazing. So we'll be back next week, but I will send out emails anyways for shows that you might have missed. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, really lovely comments. Thank you, everyone. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. I know I'm maybe a new face to most of you, if not all of you. And thank you, Shefali, for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Victoria. This was brilliant. So we'll definitely even though this was your first time, we'll definitely have to have you come back because there's so much for you to share, so much wisdom, but also the activations and transformation that's available through your work is brilliant. So we'll definitely have to have you come back. So
I'd
thank
love
you so
that.
much. And thank you, everybody. And again, happy Canada Day to all of us Canadians. Celebrate, but be safe, right? So, thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, may you continue to be blessed with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health. Sending you all so much love and blessings. Bye for now. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.